Hi everyone, like Bunny said, I'm Zainab. I'm communications coordinator for the Labyrinth Project. I'm going to get straight into the topics that I'm going to be covering in today's presentation. So we're going to start with the purposes of social media. I'm going to talk about the different social media platforms, social media schedules, free social media tools, tips for livening up your social media, an introduction to social media accessibility, and a bit about analytics. So let's get into the purposes of social media. First, I'm going to talk about fundraising. This can be as direct as sharing information on how people can donate and even using functions like the donate buttons on Facebook and Instagram to make it really easy. If you're running a campaign, you can create excitement around it by sharing your fundraising goal, your progress, and counting down until the end, which is something we see a lot of during the big give campaigns. You can publicize any fundraising challenges or events you're hosting so people can get involved or get inspired to do something similar in the future. More indirectly, sharing the successes of your organization in a way that resonates with your supporters can prompt them to donate, whether immediately or further in the future. Ultimately, donors want to know the impact of their donations. Secondly, outreach. There's such a broad range of individuals and organizations on social media that whether you're looking for a venue for an event or want to connect with influencers and journalists to publicize your work, it's so quick and easy to do that via social media. You can do this by direct messaging accounts on Twitter or Instagram, or if you want to establish a relationship with someone without a particular project in mind, you can start by liking and commenting on their content so they become aware of you. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about activism. If there's a particular cause you want people to get talking about, social media is the best way to reach a lot of people. For example, if you've got a petition you want people to sign, sharing the link with a hashtag is a great way of getting it out there. Moving on to the different social media platforms. Different platforms have different audiences and capabilities, so it's good to choose which platforms to use based on what you're specifically trying to achieve on social media. So Twitter has a general audience and it has a very fast turnover, so it's a great place to comment on news stories, engage in conversations, and share live updates. Because of that fast turnover, you can put out more content on Twitter without boring your audience and can be more casual about it as well. LinkedIn, on the other hand, has a more professional audience, and that professional nature makes it great for recruiting, promoting training and other professional development opportunities, but also sharing the challenges of a particular job or industry. So for a charity, that might look like sharing a blog about the challenges of accessing funding, as LinkedIn has a long form article function, which I've been using recently a lot on our new LinkedIn page for the Centre for Excellence. Facebook has a general audience, and I would say it's kind of a cross between LinkedIn and Twitter in that content can be longer than on Twitter, but reach a similar broad range of people. You can set up events, fundraisers, and job listings on Facebook. So if running events and campaigns is a key part of your work, it's great to take advantage of those functions specifically on Facebook. Instagram also has a general audience, but the video focus lends itself to more raw live content, which is perfect if you're able to film your charity's activities or fundraising events. The turnover isn't quite as fast as Twitter, but it's quite normal to post several Instagram stories per day, so you can get away with posting a lot more content on Instagram than you can, say, on LinkedIn. And finally, TikTok, which has a younger audience than the other platforms. It's also video based, and it's possible to blow up really quickly on TikTok, or for one video to go viral and then for the next to not do as well. But if you can jump on a viral trend in a way that's authentic to your charity, it's definitely a worthwhile way of getting your work out there. Moving on to social media schedules, it's important to be realistic about your capacity and decide on a schedule based on this. So focusing on quality over quantity. You can allocate certain themes or types of posts to certain days and set up a shared calendar on platforms like Google Sheets or Excel via SharePoint, so that you and your team members can look at key dates in advance and plan your posts. Then you can use free scheduling tools like Later to help you execute. So here is a screenshot of a scheduling platform called Agorapulse, which we use at Solace Women's Aid. And just as an example, on Agorapulse, you can schedule Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and Instagram all at the same time. You can add your images, write your captions, add any tags, and then you can edit those captions per platform. And when you go to choose the date and time, you can choose several dates in the future, so you can bulk schedule. Not all scheduling platforms will have these exact functions, but that's just a taste of what you might be able to get by using a scheduling platform. If you know you can only manage one Instagram post per week, that's okay. Pick a date and time for your weekly post and try to stick to it. If you're able to post several times a week, you may like to allocate certain themes or types of posts to certain days, like on this slide here. So in this way, you can cover all the different types of posts that you might be sharing. So those info posts might just generally be about your charity, the mission, how to access the services. You might be running a campaign that you want to share about, and there might be a fundraising challenge coming up. So you can really spread out all of that content over a week if you have that amount of content. If you don't, then that's absolutely fine. If you're able to post multiple times per day on Twitter, for example, you could organize your content like on this slide here. So this is similar to what we do at Solace Women's Aid, because we do respond to news stories and have a lot of training and other opportunities to promote. So this is similar to how we spread out our posts on Twitter, because we do use Twitter a lot. And this is only applicable if, like I say, you do actually have that volume of content to put out. But if you don't, sticking to a few posts a week or whatever works for you is fine. There's no one size fits all. Start slow and steady and see what works for you. There's no harm in changing your schedule further down the line. Moving on to free social media tools. So as we've just spoken about scheduling, it's important to note that there are loads of free scheduling tools that can help you stay organized and make posting more efficient. Most of these tools will publish posts automatically, so you can schedule in advance and then not have to do anything. So Later can be used for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. There's a free tier, but for charities, they also offer a 50% discount on annual and monthly subscriptions to the paid tiers, and 100% discount off their growth monthly plan for non-profit organizations fighting racism. Buffer similarly has a free tier, as well as paid ones for which charities can get discounts. And I would say if you are looking into a tool that doesn't explicitly advertise a charity discount, it's definitely worth asking, because you never know, they could offer that. Facebook Creator Studio is free for scheduling on Facebook and Instagram if you have a Facebook business page. And if you have Twitter, you can schedule tweets for free on the website itself, as well as on TweetDeck. Moving on to Canva for designing and video editing. There are loads of free templates available in different sizes, depending on what platforms you're making content for. But I recommend editing these and adding your own branding, so your content doesn't get confused with other organizations using the same templates. You can add your brand colors to a brand kit to help you stay consistent with your designs. Charities can also apply to get a free subscription to Canva Pro, which comes with more templates, stock images, and capabilities. And lastly, Unsplash is great for free, copyright-free images. You can simply search keywords on the website and download high quality, relevant images without having to faff around with a camera or even leave your desk. Can we go to the next slide? Tips for livening up your social media account. So one of the first ways is polls. Can we click, please? Polls are a great way of engaging with your audience that can prompt conversation about a topic relating to your cause, and they can also help you determine what kind of topics or posts would be interesting to your audience for future posting. Can we click again, please, just to show all of the examples? Ethical Hour actually takes this one step further, and they have an hour every Monday where they have a theme or a question that they've advertised in advance that people then join in on talking about, and they retweet their responses, respond to them. So that takes the kind of poll function one step further if you really want to elevate the level of conversation that you're engaging in. Casual day in the life, behind the scenes type content. So beautiful, high quality graphic content is great, but so is humanizing your work and sharing it with your supporters. If you're running an activity or event, taking short video clips or candid images is an easy way to capture your organization's work in an authentic way. And you can do this with user-generated content as well. So if you know of service users or partners who have taken images or videos of your project activities, it's great to request them for use on your social media or reshare their posts that mention you. Similarly, collecting and sharing quotes from people you've worked with is powerful. Just be sure you have the correct permissions to use their stories and images. If any of your supporters are doing fundraising challenges, try and share content about it to encourage others to do the same. You can even start your own challenge with a hashtag and encourage people to participate and post about it. So going from left to right of what we have on the screen here, the first screenshot you can see is of a video that is originally a TikTok that a volunteer made on about a day that they did some volunteering on. They then sent that video to us, and our comms team posted it on Instagram as an Instagram reel. So that's kind of a combination of user-generated content and like behind the scenes content on our own platform. The middle image you see is a compilation of images of members of staff and supporters running the Hackney Half for Solace Women's Aid, and then the Solace comms team compiling it in this very Solace style Instagram post. And the last post that you see here is one that I made after I did a visit to one of our grantee projects. So I took this picture myself and spoke to the woman in the picture and pulled out this quote from our conversation, and then designed this social media card in the usual style that I do. So these are 3 different examples of how you can showcase behind the scenes and user-generated content. The topic of making social media content accessible to people with visual and hearing impairments and learning difficulties would really need its own series of webinars, but I'm just going to flag a few simple things to make your content more accessible that you should be able to implement pretty immediately. So firstly, image descriptions. There's a number of different ways you can do this, but ultimately the idea behind it is describing what's in the images you're posting for people who use screen readers. This is particularly important if you've got text over images like we usually do at Solace and like you saw in the previous slide. Could we click, please? So this is a screenshot of how it looks on Facebook when you try to add an image description, or what's also known as alternative text. So Facebook does actually generate this automatically. So that's good news if you weren't aware about image descriptions before and are posting on Facebook, because it's already been doing it. I personally like to customize that description so that it's like exactly how I want it and to pick up on any mistakes that whatever technology Facebook users might have generated. Can we click, please? This is a screenshot of the section where you can enter alternative text on Agorapulse, which is the scheduling platform we use here at Solace. A lot of the other scheduling platforms out there will also offer this function of being able to add the alternative text or image description in advance when you're scheduling the post. So then you've done it once you've scheduled it, and you don't have to worry about it later or go back in and edit it. Can we click, please? Unfortunately, that's a bit tricky to do with Instagram. Agorapulse, for example, doesn't offer that function of scheduling the alt text, and there are a few ways of getting around this. So this is a screenshot of a post by an organization called The Slow Factory. You can see in the caption towards the bottom, they've put the letters ID : which stands for image description, and they've described the image right there and put it in the caption. So that's one way that you can describe images on Instagram if your scheduling platform doesn't allow you to do that. Can we go to the next slide, please? More recently, the Slow Factory set up a secondary account called SF Access, and you can see that account has commented on this Instagram post with the image description. So that's another way that you can get around the issue of not being able to schedule the alt text in advance. It's by either setting up a secondary account, or on the main account itself putting a comment under the post with the description. Color contrast. The Worldwide Web Consortium has accessibility guidelines when it comes to font colors and size. There are a few coding systems for colors, but basically every color has a code. So if you have the codes for your brand colors, you can use websites like this contrast checker to see if you meet the requirements, which is something Solace will be taking into account when we rebrand. Here you can see the Home Office has listed its accessible color combinations. So it's worth similarly coming up with a few combinations that meet the guidelines and work for your brand. And finally, there are just some niggly things about text that are useful to know. It's important to use punctuation as best you can, so screen readers can distinguish between sentences. Also, they will read any words all in caps as an acronym, so definitely be aware of how you're using upper and lowercase letters, and avoid using symbols like the and sign, as they might not get picked up by screen readers. Moving on to our final section, which is analytics. I've mentioned a lot of things you can do to make higher quality, engaging social media content, but not all of these will work for every audience and every platform. That's why it's important to look at the performance data of your social media. This could be as simple as looking at the number of likes on a post, or you can look at more detailed analytics, like in the insights section of your Instagram business page, or the data given by scheduling platforms. So here is just one of the sections of the analytics kind of section of the scheduling platform that we use at Solace Women's Aid. So you can see audience growth here, but you can also look at data post by post to see which types of posts are performing well. And once you identify the posts that perform the best, you can identify what they have in common. So then you can post more of the same style. You can take this one step further by UTM tagging links to your website. This means creating unique links based on where you are sharing them. You can make these links on platforms like Bitly by adding the source, medium, and campaign. For example, if I was tweeting about the success of the Labyrinth Project grant scheme, I would paste the link to the grantee stories page on the Solace website into Bitly, or I would use the plugin that you can see I've downloaded and I'm using in the screenshot on the screen. And I would add Twitter as the source, social or social media as the medium, and grantee stories as the campaign. If I tag all links in this way, then look at the Solace website data, I can see more specifically where traffic is coming from. So here is a screenshot of the analytics section of our website, and you can see on the left-hand side the different places where I've shared various links to our website. You can see that on Instagram, we're getting the most clicks out of anywhere else. On the right-hand side, you can also see the quote-unquote campaigns that we're sharing about. So the grant scheme refers to the page on the Solace website about the Empowering Women Fund. And if you expanded this section, you would be able to see all the different campaigns, meaning pages we've shared on various different social media platforms and through different email campaigns. For the Solace website, we had to install a particular plugin to be able to view this data. So it's worth chatting to your website provider about UTM tagging, as there are slightly different versions of it that don't conform to that source medium campaign structure. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now we've come to the end of the presentation. We'll be taking questions. I did have a look at the questions that people sent in advance. I think most of them were covered in this presentation, but if they weren't, here's your opportunity to ask. I did notice that one or two of them were about websites. I might be able to answer those questions, but just to reiterate that the session is specifically about social media, and that is my area of expertise and where I'll be able to be most useful.
Zainab, I noticed one person did ask about whether the free functions for Canva, are just for charities, or if they could access them as community groups. I suggested that maybe they could reach out to those to find out, but I wondered if you knew anything further about that.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know with these schemes, when you can get a discount as a charity, you often have to submit quite a lot of documentation. So I think it might be like a tax document and other official documents for your charity. So I think that there probably does need to be something official in place like that, but I'm not sure about community groups. Okay, someone said when using Facebook, it's only possible to interact with people who are your friends. That makes it hard to delegate social media to our comms person who doesn't know most people. What can we do? Is that like a small community Facebook group you're referring to? Esther? You're a charity. So at Solace, we have a login to our Facebook page, and a few members of the team have this and are able to log in and share the social media posts. But I'm not sure if you're referring to a comms person trying to speak to individual people. I'm not sure I understand what your question is getting at. So you should be able to respond to comments as a page. And in terms of sharing posts to specific people, they might have certain permissions or privacy settings that prevent certain things being shared with them. And then also on your end, I'm not sure whether you have a page or a group, but you'd also have to check all of your settings to see what you're enabled to do. Homestart Lambeth has lost access to its Facebook account as it was set up by a previous employee. Do you have any tips on how we could regain access? If you're able to get in contact with that previous employee, obviously that's ideal to be able to access it. Otherwise, trying all the different ways you can to contact Facebook. I know it can be really frustrating when you don't get responses. But I think there's like a live chat option, there are email options. So just making sure you try all of those to be able to regain access to your account. Similarly, they might ask for official documentation to prove that you are actually affiliated with the charity. It could involve having something printed or official with the Home Start branding on a letter saying that like you're an employee and that you're in charge of comms. It will probably just take quite a lot of badgering. I've had an experience of having my Instagram account hacked, and it took a lot of contacting Instagram and Facebook in different ways to finally get it back, and it's really frustrating, but I think often it does just take that badgering to get an account like that back. For those people for whom social media is one aspect of their role, do you have any ideas or suggestions about how we make time for it without feeling it's going to eat up all the time? So I think if you're just getting started out trying to post regularly, I think maybe trying to make it a priority for that first month or so that you can get to grips with how to do it, how often you want to do it, what content you want to make. I think it's important that even if it is a small aspect of what you're going to be doing going forward, making it a priority for a short period in the first instance is important to just find your feet. And then, like I say, having those schedules in place and all of those useful central documents that help you just manage all of the content. So one thing that I didn't actually fit into the presentation is having a content bank. So if, for example, on a weekly basis, you want to share the phone number for your service or anything else that you regularly want to share, like the mission of your charity, you can have the caption for that post saved on a shared document somewhere with a few image options, and you can always just go back to that content bank and copy and paste those posts. And also, if you are able to access a scheduling platform, bulk scheduling those types of posts can be really helpful. So if most of your posts don't respond necessarily to a news story or an event or anything that's timely, you could, for example, set aside half a day or 1 day per month to schedule all of your posts for that month. But all of these things will depend on the capacity of your specific team and what you're trying to do on social media. But those are just some suggestions on how you can manage it.